Hey, you're looking at the Thorny Turtle Ranch. We got some stories on the Thorny Turtle Ranch. We also got some turtles. We got David here, Mr. Cates, and he's in Texas, but he's going to tell you a story about when he was younger. We just did a naval story about a fire on the J.F. Kennedy aircraft carrier, and that was really a significant time in his life. We got that 20-minute story on the channel, very interesting. I suggest you take a look at it. But he's going to tell us some other kind of crazy information that I've heard it once, and it's worthy of being captured on video. So what you got for us?
Well, as like I say, before I went in the Navy, I would like to think that a lot of stuff that I did was kind of unique. Some people may have experienced it, but anyway, like my buddy and I remember when I lived out in the country, we would take, he had a horse, I had a pony, we'd meet up, and I can remember, this is kind of silly, gross, but at the same time, we'd go to his two-story barn and hunt rats.
Huh.
Okay, and
with what, a BB gun?
And a pellet rifle, a
right.
baseball bat, and his dog named Lucky, and I'm not making this stuff up.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, we ride our animals over there to his grandfather's barn, and typical things you do when you're out of school for the summer.
Yeah.
And like I said, I remember running barefoot through this barn, which is something you don't do. And like I said, I remember killing 7 of them one time. Thought we did a great job that day. And but I remember running through this barn and hit the threshold because I was going to jump down to the 2nd floor. And as soon as I hit that threshold, a nail went through my foot.
Ooh,
like I said, I was barefooted, so it hit almost between 2 of my toes. And I'm in the air, knowing that I stepped on a nail, and then landing in a pile of horse manure.
Oh, man.
And it's just, you picture this, a typical kid doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But then I had to get this off of my foot, and of course you think about all the infection that could occur, but
oh, yeah.
Went home real fast, washed my foot off, put peroxide and everything else on it. Couldn't get the nail out of my foot. It was stuck up in there, and
oh, man.
I had to wait for my mother and stepfather to come home. And as soon as they got home, they were able to take a pair of pliers and pull the nail out. But and doctored it up, and I was fine. Still here talking about it this many years later.
Yeah.
And but again, you do stupid stuff when you're a kid, and that was just one of many instances. I can remember trying to think of something. Used to take, like I said, we go on these excursions and ride through the woods, and came up on a still.
Oh, my God, really?
Moonshine still.
Active? Kind of like active?
It was very active, and the guy had a brand new 68 Ford pickup truck at the time, sitting out in the middle of the woods, and there was no easy way to get here. I mean, there was a path, of course. You got a truck back there, but I remember Wayne and I looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, we've got to get out of here because you're up on somebody else's." Well, we always rode on people's property. You just didn't think about it because you're out in the middle of nowhere, and but wasn't expecting to run up on a still. And I had friends that, like I said, my buddies, their dads. I had a couple of them that were pretty bad drinkers at the time, and nice guys. But when they got drunk, they disappear on 2-week benders and this kind of stuff, and nobody ever knew where they were at. And but I remember one of these guys, his dad actually got killed when he was 12 years old, and my friend's dad, and he was drinking out in the woods with his buddies around a campfire, which I'm sure people still do that at times if they have some kind of property they were drinking on. But,
so that seemed to be a regular occurrence for some of your friends' dads to just go out drinking.
Oh yeah,
drinking in the woods at a campfire.
And they would disappear, and he actually was killed around this campfire. And I don't know if he fell into the campfire because he was too drunk, or I know one of my friends got shot.
One of your friends' dads got shot.
One of my friends got shot.
One of your friends or
no, one of
the
my
dad?
friends' dads got shot.
Right.
From drinking out in the woods with his buddies.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of bad things happened. He was shot and killed.
Yeah.
My father actually sent me a news clipping of it when I was in the Navy about it happening. And
then that friend was embarrassed.
Oh yeah.
When you came back.
He was so embarrassed that my father had told me that. And like I say, he and I were very good friends. But typical. You don't want that kind of stuff shared about your father.
Yeah.
And I really felt for him. I still see him regularly. That's a friend of mine. But like I said, his dad died in a similar instance around a campfire drinking with buddies. It's just too many of those type of instances where I remember when I went in the Navy at the time, there was so much crap going on the news all the time. People getting arrested, drug busts, the Manson murders that just happened, or should I say, had been convicted of it.
Right.
And you just thought about evil that abounded everywhere.
There seemed to be a lot of that.
And yeah, and it was just a lot of stuff, a lot of bad things. But I still feel truly that there's a whole lot more good than bad in people and the world. I do feel this way.
Yeah.
But I know there's bad people out there. Don't get me wrong. I know that. My son didn't understand how I drove all across country without a pistol, without a weapon.
You know, I don't really understand that either.
But
especially since I've run across problems.
But I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And drove all the way from North Carolina to San Diego, and back the same way. I mean, I went up to Iowa, dropped a guy off, and came back down. But I never thought about carrying a pistol. But I actually had a short end or the thick end of a pool stick underneath my seat if I ever thought that I was going to be challenged on something. But and I've been very, I'm going to say astute. People would say I'm stupid, but I know how to avoid a bad situation. At least I've been fortunate at this point.
Yeah.
Not to say I haven't been in sticky situations. I've had knives pulled on me and all this kind of stuff. But I've been able to avoid getting stuck, or I've been in fist fights, but nothing.
That's right. You said a friend of yours put a knife to your throat. He was a good friend of yours.
Well, not my best friend growing up. He would just get the same one that I was talking about, his dad.
Oh, okay.
He'd been through a lot of crap, and so I tried to keep him out of trouble. And his mother always appreciated him hanging out with me because she knew he wasn't going to get in trouble, or at least for the most part. And but he got so mad at me one time because I actually said a bad thing to him. I told him, I said, "You would end up like your father if he kept drinking."
Yeah.
And of course his father was buried in a graveyard, and he pulled a knife on me. He was ready to stick me that day, and I remember telling him, "You're not going to stick me." And I remember he just got so mad. He threw the knife down and slammed the wall with his fist, put a hole in the sheetrock. He was so mad. But again, too many times that he and I got into it, but nobody ever pulled a gun on each other.
Yeah.
We got mad. But like I said, my son didn't understand how in the world I could drive so many places without a weapon.
Yeah.
But like I said, I had the thick end of a pool stick under my seat. But I never really thought about carrying a pistol.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys that I grew up with did go to jail.
Yeah.
One of them got blown up by a car by the Hells Angels. They went after him.
Oh, really?
And at the same time, they stuck, I don't know if it was dynamite or whatever they put under his car seat. But I read about that later. He lived through it, which makes no sense. But he was.
They planted a car bomb in his flipping car and blew him up.
He was messed up from it. But again.
This is in North Carolina in the 70s?
This was in the 70s.
Good gracious.
They actually had a shootout on the highway with the Hells Angels and the Pagans. This was back in around 72, I guess. 72, 73. I can't remember the year. But anyway, is again, one of the guys used to come by our gas station that I worked at, was charged with a murder over in Chapel Hill. I think he got off of it, but I used to see him coming down his motorcycle all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just, again, being around it, you sometimes know how to avoid getting in the thick of, you know if somebody's so bad, you don't want to be around them.
Yeah.
And I did know how to avoid that.
Wow.
And anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like, man, you had an interesting life. I'm going to close this story down because we're coming at the 10-minute mark. You've been looking at the Thorny Turtle Ranch. We got some interesting stories, and we're going to continue with that. So I want you to like, subscribe, share, thumbs up, like that. and take care.